Check 1, 2. Audio looks good. I think we're good. Okay, go for it. What was the
Yeah,
question?
yeah. So the reason I'm saying it's simple, it's either you know what it is or you don't know what it is. So I'm looking for the best bid and best ask prices and sizes. And I think it should be in the get time, what is that function? Get time of sales.
Let me ask you a follow-up clarification question.
Sure.
Do you mean historically or live, like right
Live.
now? Okay,
Yeah, live.
so let me rephrase your question. The question is, uh, what is the live NBBO?
Okay.
What is the live best national best bid and best offer?
Good. Price and size, yeah.
Price and size, yeah. Okay, let me pull up the docs. Functions. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but it's like get market. I think this is the historical one. I think you can actually use get time and sales actually to do this. Get time and sales. Let me make this a bit wider. So get time and sales will give you the latest NBBO and each execution, and uh, you can filter out. You don't need to use the executions themselves, but you will know what the NBBO was at the last execution, and you can also this get time and sales will also provide you updates to the level 1. So if the NBBO changes, you can read those changes uh, from from this. And I'm trying to find. There's different types in here. Where is it? Oh, these are the types. Yeah, okay, so take a look at this section right here. This is a trade that happened on the bid, and this is a trade that happened on the ask, and then this is the bid or the ask changed, but no trade executed. So there's a couple different scenarios. Does this make sense? Like, do you understand why
Yes. Yeah.
why each of these scenarios would happen? Okay. So this would be if no execution happened, but the bid or the ask changed. There was an update to the L1, which forces a new record to come through when you call this. So have you looked at this get time and sales?
Yeah, I couldn't find the actual best. I thought it'd be just like, one of the variables would be, hey, this is the best bid, best ask.
Yeah, so
Um,
if you do this, um, then you will get the best bid where the we might need to go look at the actual data structure for this time and sales array. Like what that struct looks like, because I don't remember off the top of my head. Get time and sales array. Do they have it somewhere here? No. Let's go find this structure in the code. Let me just open up SC constants, or let me go to ACS source first. SC constants, or SC structures rather. Let's see if I can make it big. There we go. So, and I'm gonna remove all these white spaces. That's not the definition of it. That's not the definition of it. Let me open Sierra chart.h. It's not in there. Excel def bars and custom bars. Yeah, we were just in there. SC constants. Is it in here? That's for that. They have samples. It's iterative time and sales sample. It's probably written in here somewhere, isn't it? Like where the sample code is. I'm just not seeing it. Get time and sales price, volume, time. Let's take a look at this studies.cpp. Um, and let's look for our time and sales record. So there's the time and sales record. Let's see where they use that there. So dot volume is one element of it. Dot type is another. And I wish I could find the actual. Okay, dot bid and dot ask is probably the the well, actually I don't know if that's the price or the size. Interesting. Okay, ask size. So this dot ask size would be the size, and then dot ask would be the price. So that's what you would use to
Okay.
accomplish that. So basically, going back to our thing, you could use, so one option is using get time and sales, and then for each of those time and sales records, uh, you have bid, which is the price or bid price. You have ask price. You have bid size, bid size, and ask size. And that's, I'm not even going to comment it, it's self-explanatory. So
Yeah.
you know what you need to grab from inside of there. Now, um, I think there might be even another way to accomplish this. Uh, because really what you don't care about the executions, you care about the market depth.
Yes.
And there, I feel like there was, I'm only one cup of coffee in, but I feel like there is a way, market depth entry at level. This might be it. If you provide a level, in other words, a price,
Price.
you
Yeah.
could get the market depth for the bid and the ask at that price.
Okay.
So let's take a look at how that way of doing it is. I'm not sure which way is easier, or I don't know if there's a right or a wrong there. Well, there's probably
Yeah.
a lot of wrongs, but let's take a look. Entry level returns the depth entry structure called S market depth entry on the bid side for the depth level specified. Now, what is the depth level? It's a level index. What the heck is a level index? You have to turn this on, uses market depth data, so you have to have this flag on if you're going to use this way to do it. And then here's an example in the studies.cpp.
Okay.
Here's the definition of that structure. So it provides you the price, the size, and then the number of orders at that at that price. I guess the question is what do we do with a level index, and um, how do we derive that value? Let's go look at this example they have here in studies.cpp,
Yeah.
and let's see how they derive level index. Data processing. What was the name of our function? Get bid market depth. It's right here, depth entry and then level. So level 0 starts at 0 and it goes to bid array levels, and bid array levels is an integer which looks at the maximum depth levels. Get bid market depth number of levels. So uh, let's go back up here. Get bid market depth number of levels. So you have to use it in conjunction with these.
Yeah.
So first you get, okay, so let's just let's write this out because it's a couple of steps here. First, so this is like option 1 for you here,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And then this would be option 2 to do the same thing, or not the same thing, but different. And this would be you want to use this to get the number of levels, I'm just going to do the bid side, but you'll have to repeat the same thing for the ask side.
That's,
But first you would get the number of bid levels, which would actually give you the number that you would need to iterate through here. I'm assuming 0 is going to be um, the... Actually, I don't even know what that sentence was going to come out to, so ignore that. But you iterate through there, and then... Yeah, what is... I'm confused by what this level is. Let me go backwards here. Actually, let me remove these white spaces first. So those really distract me. And then, so level, bid array levels. Let's read what the documentation says for this, because I'm actually... Returns the number of market depth levels on the bid side. So this, oh, I see. So this could potentially be, so this is price agnostic. This is price agnostic, it looks like. So it looks like this is, so what I mean by that is, are you futures or equities?
futures.
Futures. So do you look at a ladder?
Uh, Hardly ever, but
What do you
I'm
look
familiar
at
with it.
for, what do you look at for market depth? How do you view your market depth?
I I reconstruct it in a study for
Okay.
time. Yeah,
Let's pretend we're looking at a ladder. I'm gonna draw a
yeah,
ladder. Let me make that not have that kind of background. Um, and then let's just pretend this is a crudely drawn ladder. And so you have your offers on this side. Let's pretend current price is right there. Okay, that's current price. Your bids are down here, right? Your offers are up here. I think what this is doing is it's telling you, oh, I have 3. They're at different prices,
yeah,
but I have 3. And if this happened and someone came into the book with another one, this would turn to 4.
yeah.
So it doesn't really actually address what you'd have to do is basically you'd have to get to the level and then double check that it's actually at the price that you're trying to find.
Mm,
Versus this option, which is starting to look much more attractive, and I think this is actually what you want to do, is this one.
yeah,
Um, because this one gives you the most recent level 1 NBBO, and then you right away just say, hey, this, and you're done. And you
yeah.
know the price. You have the prices for them right there. So, and you know that's the inside. You don't have to do all this iteration over all this extra stuff. So, I think we know that option 2 is not viable,
Yeah.
and you need to go with option 1.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you, Rosen.
You're welcome. Next. Good morning, everybody.
Howdy. How are you?
Hey, number. How you doing, man?
I'm alive. Heart's beating. Lungs are moving, so
Oh no.
better than
What happened?
Oh, nothing. That's better than most people that came before me. The billions, all of them are 6 feet under. I'm happy to have my heart beating and lungs moving.
That is morbid. That is morbid, my internet friend. And I think we need to proverbially pour out one for Fat Cat as well. Hold on a second. How do I do this? I do
I offered
this.
to create a ringtone for everyone, but there's.
Let me just pour one out for Fat Cat here.
Or when the Apple Vision Pro headset releases, you could probably turn them into beer goggles or something.
That was I saw some video recording of people at the conference when the price was announced and just the funny hush that came through the crowd. But
I may potentially you disagree, but I think for it being an entirely unique product offering with nothing comparable on the market, I think it's pretty reasonably priced for what it does.
I actually don't know anything about it other than
Okay.
it's a headset. What does it do? What is it? What feature sets does it have?
So they refer to it as spatial computing. It's a blended AR VR
Okay. Was
headset.
that augmented and virtual, you mean?
Yes, you can change the immersion aspect so that it's fully VR or fully AR.
Oh, that's
You
cool.
can, and with the integrated M2 chip, and they have another chip in there as well, there's full eye tracking associated with it to select whatever you want. There are
M2
12
is
different
their
models.
internal architecture, right? That's the one that
Yes,
they built in-house, right? Well, I don't know if it's
yes.
in-house, but that's the one that they branded, right?
Yeah, it's with TSMC.
It's with okay, Taiwan. Okay.
But for with it being fully AR VR, there's no headset on the market that allows you to do what the Apple headset will. But let's say from a sheer productivity perspective, there's a fair bit of appeal in it because of when they say spatial computing, you could have, let's say, four monitors set up in an AR environment, and each of those monitors, due to the pixel density, are going to be the equivalent of a 4K monitor.
Hmm.
Um, and it has adequate hardware to be running most applications natively. And then if you want the VR aspect or AR aspect, to have a full movie, I think there's a productivity gain, quote unquote, present from it for some individuals. But they could have easily priced it at $6,000 or $7,000, and it still would have sold out because the initial supply is going to be exceedingly limited.
Yeah.
But 3,500 for a product that's entirely unique, where there's no competition in the space, and it's not only what most VR headsets have been prior, which is a novelty. 3,500 is pretty reasonable.
It's interesting to see all of this unfold, especially in the current backdrop of where the markets are, where the U.S. economy is, where the struggles of inflation and all the other stuff are happening, and then the historical impact that Apple has had with its product releases, be pre Tim Cook and the innovation that Jobs brought year after year. I'm talking about the, lines around the block, the literal blockbuster situations that iPhone introduced back in the early 2000s or mid 2010s or whatever it was. Um, I don't know if this headset is going to be something that everyone can use every day. I guess we'll see. Anyways, that is interesting.
I think from as much it's I expressed a fair bit of equivocation regarding use case for the reason being is I've never watched Black Mirror, but I've read enough remarks about it that it's very, very Black Mirror-esque
Okay, yeah.
based on the immersion aspect. However, I think the implications this has for the entire AR VR spatial computing sector, this is going to entirely change how it's perceived
Yeah,
and
and
create a bit
it's
more of a
interesting how
robust
like
market.
Facebook or Meta, face planted with their
Yes.
metaverse attempts and the I don't know if it's close or similar type of goggles, but I think
Think of ski goggles.
it's undebatable. Well, maybe it is debatable. I don't think a lot of people will argue that Meta face planted pretty hard with that metaverse.
Once again, the doctor wanted to give me permission. I said, absolutely not. Hmm.
Sorry, what? Are we just unmuted? Or was that? I don't even know who that was.
Geo.
Geo.
There we
I was like, absolutely not what? I
go.
was like, he's passionate, but I don't know what he's passionate about. All right. Thank you for that. Let's jump back into coding stuff. What do we got? Anyone got a next question? as I drink some more coffee. I know you guys are showing up with questions, right? To office hours. Nobody's got a coding question.
Sorry, I just got to stream. But my first time actually on here. You guys code for Sierra? Or you guys
Welcome.
for Ninja? Or all?
This is just a open office hour for general coding questions.
Okay.
I do a lot of Sierra chart coding, but I'd never had the Ninja platform. But if you have a coding question, I mean, code is code. So if you have some kind of concept you'd like to understand better or something you want to ask a question about, I'm not going to sit and write a program out for you like a
Right. That's understandable.
but if you have something you want to inquire about, yeah.
Just a question in general. As a newbie in coding, what's the best pathway for me to take to learn?
Sure. We get this one a lot. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to target, like what your end goal is. So maybe you can say kind of like what is your dream in terms of what you want to accomplish if you air quotes got there.
Okay. I think my ultimate. I mean, I don't want to do something automated. I just want something that alerts me, like where if you like accumulate, like the CBD goes down, trending lower versus the price, just alert me to it because.
So you want to create simple alerts. So the question is I have no coding background. Starting at zero, basically. How do I learn to build like alerts, basically? Is that
Right?
okay?
Yeah.
So what you'll want to start off with, and this is pretty similar to what I said, and I think we fielded this type of question last week, was that if you have absolutely nothing to build off of, you need to go learn what the fundamentals, like programming fundamentals. And the ones that I would focus on are things like, do you know how an if-then
Yeah.
do you know how an
Yeah.
if-then statement works?
Yeah. I do a lot of Excel work, so I know
Okay,
that.
so you know, so you do have some. So even Excel spreadsheet stuff is a form of coding and programming. It does require logic. These types of if-thens, these are called conditionals. Oops, conditional statements, and
Okay.
you know, this is like a fundamental building block of what you're going to be doing. The next thing you should go do is go to YouTube and look up videos on programming data types. Actually, I think it's one word, data types. Look up data types and just focus on the basic ones. So like, what is an integer? Um, how does an integer get represented in code? What is like a floating point decimal? Might be referred to in other programming languages as a float. Some might call it a double. Some might call it something else.
Okay.
There's actually a difference between these two in C++, but I won't go into that right now. Another one is Boolean. This is basically your true-false.
Okay.
Learn how a Boolean works. Another one is a string, which
Yes.
is a series of characters. One character is H, for example, but a string would be hello world. It'd be an array of
Okay.
character types. And so
Yes.
you need to understand these data types and how they're represented. You don't need to understand every nook and cranny of them, but you do need to
Okay.
understand how to read them in existing code and how to uh, know which one of them to use. So if you have a condition like um, did my alert condition get triggered? You know, that's probably going to be a Boolean type, right? Did
Okay.
my alert condition get triggered? That's a true or false. But that might be comprised of other things such as values like the number of some event happening represented by an integer, or a price getting met represented by a float, or some other combination of other data types. So essentially, go look at data types. It sounds like you already have conditionals. You understand, you know, if you say if you know, condition A and condition B are met,
Right.
then, you know, do this stuff.
Gotcha. So
Uh,
I see that. I see that. What are that? Not the parentheses, but
the
the
ampersands.
not the ampersand. The not the com. Uh, not the semicolon. Not the. Yes, that.
This squiggly bracket?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a scope operator. What it tells you is that everything inside of these two, this opening squiggly, this is an opening squiggly, this is the closing squiggly, this is the open squiggly bracket, and this is the closing squiggly bracket. This represents the coding block. So,
Okay.
block of code, and that'll only get executed if this conditional is evaluated to true. If this conditional is evaluated to false, it will not
Gotcha.
execute the code inside the code block.
Okay.
So like all this type of stuff is good fundamental stuff that I mean, there's probably millions of YouTube videos out there on fundamentals of programming and then the data types. Once you get through all that, then go start checking out whatever your target platform is. So if you want to program for Sierra, go check out Sierra programming videos. If you want to program for Ninja, I don't even know what programming language Ninja.
Maybe I did C plus. I heard C plus plus.
C plus plus plus. C
Nah,
plus plus plus. That would
no,
be a that
I
would
don't
be a
know.
new one. I'm
I don't know how many
joking with
pluses
you.
are there.
There's only two. But yeah, go check out all that stuff, and then you'll be on the right path.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How often do you guys meet up?
I try to hold these on Fridays.
Okay. Neat.
All right. What
Awesome.
else do we got? Who's next? Hey, Maradi. Okay, yeah, I see your text. Go for it. You can write in here. I'll post the question up here. I tried to okay, let me copy this over here. Muradi says, let me just take a screenshot of this. Oops. Let me make it a little bit larger. I tried to code a boilerplate example inspired by the magic chart study using read intraday file record, but I couldn't figure it out. It's just for learning process, not for actual trading. Your study only plots ticks. I want to process tick data instead. Your study only plots ticks. I want to process ticks. Maybe you can expand on what you mean by that, because in order to do the plotting, you actually have to process them. Oh, there's a second part. Hold on. Let me grab the second part of the question. There's more. Okay. Oops. Make this big. My example aims to count the consecutive number of bid-ask transactions within each bar. So my guess is what you mean, Muradi, is that if how do I want to represent this visually? Let's actually no, not like that. Let's say this is time. And time in general for most of us moves forward. Except for Fat Cat who took those mushrooms, then it can go backwards, but that's beyond the scope of coding stream here. So time is moving forwards, and you want to know, and so we have executions happening. Let me just use a circle, and I'll make it the ones that are on the bid side. I'll put there, and maybe can I make a darker background or a blue? I don't know. Let's do blue and make the background blue. My goodness, what did they do to this? There we go. And then the ones on the ask will make, yeah, I don't know, something like that, basically. So these would be bid side, and these would be ask side transactions, or executions, rather. And this is just time. So what you're saying is, I want to count the consecutive number of bid-ask transactions within a bar. So let's say that this is the start of a bar. So this is bar start. And then let's copy that over here. And let's say this is bar end. And yeah, so if you had something like this, you would want to be like, hey, there's a group of 3 here, so you'd want to have 3 for that. Oh, there's more. Oh no, you don't. That's the same one I have here. Okay. So for instance, let me reread this again. My example aims to count the consecutive n number of bid-ask transactions within each bar and show the counting results for visible bars on the screen as separate subgraphs for bid-ask. So this is going to be an issue depending on how your chart is set up, and I'll explain why in a second. For example, if n is set to 10, then whenever there are 10 consecutive ticks, then we want to increment by 1. I see. So it's a little bit more, there's another layer of abstraction. If n is equal to 10, then our output right now is 0. But actually, let's I don't want to draw 10. Let's say n is equal to 3. So then you have 1, 2, 3 that are consecutive. That equates to needing to increment the study, which means this would then go to 1 after boom, 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 1, 2, 3. And similarly, if then you had 1, 2, 3, 4 here, you have this 3 would count as another plus plus to, maybe it's to the same one or a bid side one. Is that kind of what you're looking for, Muradi? Yes, exactly. Okay. So, is there a separate counter for ask output and bid output? Are you looking for, like, I'm assuming you are. So bid output would be one, like, variable counter, and the ask output would be another counter, like occurrences of n being met consecutively. It's probably separate. So this is doable. This is doable. The part that gives me hesitation that I'm not sure I can wrap my head around right now, I'll have to think about this, which is painful to think, is this part right here, separate subgraphs for bid ask, because this is dependent on what your bar period is set to. This is dependent on the bar period that you have set on the chart. So if you're like, what is your chart bar period for this going to be? It's for every bar. I mean, the bar period, are these 5 minute bars? Are they 1,000 contract volume bars? Are they range bars of like 8 ticks? Are they 10 ticks? 10 ticks per bar. So it's a 10 tick bar. I see. Um, that could be tricky because then you would only have, if you're using a 10 tick bar and your N is set to 10, then you're going to have a very low hit rate because you would essentially have to have 10 consecutive ones fall exactly into the space of that one bar in order to have it increment at all. Because if one of the 10 was in the bar previous or the bar afterwards, it would not be truthy. It can be a 500 tick bar. Okay, so it can be any size bar. Okay, that'll make it less complex. Okay, so and then do you need this historically? Like, do you need to be able to go back and replay and see this, or do you need it just going forward? Because that makes a difference as well. Historically, okay. So you could use the reading of the intraday file if you have your intraday time. This would require that you have the intraday time period set to 1 tick. The intraday storage. Let me just find the setting. Sierra chart, intraday file management, server settings. Is it here? No. There's a specific setting. Where the heck is it? Advanced server settings. There's a specific setting for just ticks. If anybody remembers what oh, it's data trade service, isn't it? It's in data trade service. No, it's not. Yes, it is. It's right here. This guy. You need to have this guy set to 1 tick. Okay? This guy right here needs to be set to 1 tick in order for that to work. But yeah, you can do it. You can absolutely do it with this because from this function, read intraday file record for bar index and subindex, you can basically step through every single tick that happened. So you would, I guess to sharpen what we're trying to achieve here over the next few minutes as I work through this one with you, which part are you stuck on? Is it how to structure this in the code, or is it reading the tick data like using this function to interpret tick data? Which one of those is the problem or the hurdle? You can get the tick data read, but you can't detect consecutive end trades. Okay, great. So in the tick data, I'm assuming you have a way to determine if it's a bid transaction or a transaction on the ask, an execution that was on the bid or the ask. You already have that working? You know if it's already a bid or an ask side trade? Okay, so then what I would do is, let's look at this graphic because I think this makes it easy. Let's pretend we start right here. Let's make it really, really simple and use a very basic example. So we have this here. Let's reset our counters, right? Let's reset our counters. So you have this. You need to store the occurrence of this somewhere. You can't store it here. So you probably need another variable. I'm just working through this as I'm thinking about it. You probably need another variable called like um, number of consecutive bid like executions, and you'll need the same thing up here, number of consecutive ask executions. Okay, and so you see this one, and then you need to go 1. You see this one, and you need to increment this. Now the very next trade is on the ask side, and I think you need to have a piece of code that as you're processing each tick, if you see something on the ask side or on either side, you need to say, is the other side, so if you see a trade come over on the ask, you need to see, is num consecutive bid executions greater than 0? Because if it is, you need to reset it. If it's greater than 0, then you need to reset it. So if execution is on ask, you need to say, does num consec bid execution greater than 0? If yes, you need to reset it to 0 because this execution's happening on the ask, so therefore this needs to get reset to 0. It is no longer one consecutive. It's getting reset. So by the presence of this happening, this gets reset to 0. And then after you do that reset, well, now we need to increment number of consecutive asks. So we go to 1. And now we move on to the next transaction, and we say we're on the ask. Is the number of consecutive bids on the other side greater than 0? No, it's still 0 because we reset it right here. Okay, what do I do now? Well, I have to increment the ask to 2. Okay, let's move on to this one. This one's on the ask. Okay, do we have a number of consecutive bid on the other side greater than 0? No, it's still 0 from when we reset it over here. Okay, what do we do? Well, we go to increment this. After each one of these checks, like you have to do another check, which is num consecutive ask executions greater than or equal to my n? If yes, increment my output counter. So is the number of bids after that greater than 0? No. Okay, I incremented this. Okay, is this now greater than or equal to n? N is equal to 3. 3 is equal to or greater than 3. So therefore, we need to increment the output. So now this goes to 1. Now, we go here, and we have a bid side transaction. So what do? We say, what is the if the execution is on the bid, right? It's going to be, let's make a copy of this, and then I'll make this a slightly different color, and I'll change this to bid, and then I'll change this to ask. So now we have an execution on the bid, and we say, hey, the execution's on the bid. Is num consecutive ask executions greater than 0? And yeah, it's 3. So we need to reset it to 0. Actually, it probably should get reset to 0 anytime you increment one of these. So this should probably be and reset the output. And now you see how I'm building just the simple logic, the simple state machine that just goes over and over each tick and controls these variables. Do you see what I'm doing here, Murati? Okay, great. Take that, run with it, see if that gets you further. Okay, we have a question from Belisarius. Let me take this screenshot that Belisarius asked about. Let's post it here. Let's put it here. So how do I scrape data off of this and stream it into a CSV? I think it requires injecting hooks into memory, and it's written in C sharp. Um, so a couple questions, Belisarius. Number one, what is this? What platform is this? This is from Jigsaw Day Trader. Okay. And then is this um, same thing Fat Cat uses to execute. So this is like a time and sales on Jigsaw, basically, is what you're saying? Okay, okay. And then do you have, so I don't have Jigsaw. I'm not sure if there's a, you want, is your goal to have this be scraping like real time? Like all the time and sales data? Gotcha. Do you have any other platforms other than it lets you know when the resting bid and rest and ask when a price goes bid or ask? So the particular ask that you are bringing up, which is taking data streaming across a window um, and pulling it into a file, is not as straightforward as one may think. So you are what would this code that you're proposing be running in? Like what would you want it to run? Because I don't think Jigsaw supports custom code like Sierra. So are you talking about creating like a standalone application to read through this? Okay, so like a standalone. Okay. So um so Jigsaw is probably a Windows or day trade. Hold on a second, let me clear my throat. Jigsaw Day Trader is probably a standalone Windows 32 or 64-bit application. And this is probably a Windows window. And in order to grab data that's coming in through here, we don't know how Jigsaw programmed for that data to be rendered in here. So it may not be a straightforward thing to be able to go grab that information. In general, the Windows API lets you do a couple of things with Windows. One thing you can do is grab like the title, um, the title bar, and grab text from there, and you can get like a hook onto the window itself and know the positioning. Like you can know the XY coordinates of different points on the window so you know how it's drawn and how big it is and things like that. But actually getting the text that's like inside of here, not as trivial as one may think. I think let me read through some of the updates here. Where were we? You can open jigsaw.dll with a debugger. Well, the DLL itself is going to just be a library of code that probably is getting called and executed from the Jigsaw application. So, what is this? What did Number post here? What is this?
If he's looking to export or stream data out of a CSV file,
It's not out of a CSV file, though. It's inside of a window. Yeah, if this is for CSV, because it's not in a CSV already. It's inside of a window that we don't have like any control over. So that is tricky. That is tricky to do. That's getting into more of like Windows API. I wonder if there's. Well, let me do a quick search. What could I? Win30. Oops. Win32 API read text from window. um, That's just for the title bar into a buffer. Yeah, that's just window text cannot retrieve the text of a control in another application. So this will not work for what I was thinking, okay? Yeah, so basically the trouble is that this is an application that we don't know how they're rendering this. We don't know how they built this for it to come across. This could be multiple different components. I doubt that they're just doing a carefully formatted piece of text and like refreshing it every time an execution came through and just having it go across by lines. I don't know if this is like sortable columns or anything like that. So this is a really tough thing to build an external application to go in and read something that's being rendered on the fly in another application without knowing anything about it. Um, there's probably easier ways to do it. Yes, you could build hooks into memory. You could do that, but then you are risking other things such as having it crash because you accessed a piece of memory that did exist but no longer exists, or you have some kind of memory out of bounds error. Like it's just a very rickety vehicle if you go that route. This would be more like if you were trying to look into an application to see if it's going down a certain path, and you were trying to like uh, intercept. I don't know. Like this is the type of thing that those guys who build like cracking software for like applications. They'll go in and inject hooks into the memory, and then see like if they can find the spot where there's some kind of conditional in the code that maybe they can read as either a hex value, or maybe they can get it down to the assembly level or something, and see if they can bypass some security feature so that you can get the full version. That's kind of what this is getting into, and it's not stable. It's for like specific types of things, and this amount of throughput on a heavily traded instrument, that's a lot of memory that's going to be getting like thrashed around. So I I don't know. I don't know. This might be a little bit beyond my wheelhouse. Let me get caught up on these questions here. Sierra turned off CME data. Use Taylor's method. Get full depth trade. Da, da, da. Andy, good morning. Andy has a depth code question. Andy, you're up. What do you got? If you have a mic, jump on. Okay, no problem. Type it out. I'll post it. So as he is typing that, I'll put this. I sent you an update in a direct message. I'm trying to fill in depth using the recording mode. Let me go to my. I've been getting slammed with DMs since Fat Cat left. 1 second. Yeah, I did not get through this, Andy, this morning. There's just a lot of stuff going on. First study is a success. It has gaps in the depth. Let me get this screenshot over here. It has gaps in the depth. The study clears if I refresh the chart. I'll talk about that as well. Make any changes to the chart. Yep. Might be the case where I actually need to build a custom chart. Okay. Okay. So I wasn't really clear on where you're at now. You are trying to use a recording mode in Sierra, which I'm not super familiar with, but basically you can append to a symbol name. I read up on that article that you sent me. You can append something to the symbol name, and that specifies a data recording mode on top of what it already records. But you're trying to use some kind of sync. Yeah, you have it here. What is that? ESM23 futures dash CME dash bid ask trade sync, something like that is what you're using as the symbol. And this piece right here, apparently, I never knew this before you told me. This piece right here enables a data recording mode in Sierra. I'm not really sure what that does, other than write to an intraday file, which it's already doing. But updates, basically update the new bar at every bid or ask or trade update. So supposedly updates with every new bar at every bid or ask or trade update. So I'm still unclear on what you were trying to accomplish with this that you couldn't with the other exposed Sierra functions, and where we're at, like what the actual hurdle is right now. Can you like concisely summarize what specifically, other than like it's not working the way you're expecting? I'm not really sure what we're expecting or what the. If you see the yellow boxes are the top bid and ask prices. Okay, so these are the bid and ask prices. Okay. You see where they're not showing sizes when the prices update? You mean like right there? Are you talking about like this spot and this spot and this spot and this spot? Is that what you're referring to? Like why are those gaps? Or are you talking about like this and this? When bid or ask makes a new high or low. Okay, so maybe it's just me. I'm struggling to understand what the question is. So it looks like the recording mode and this study that you're using isn't displaying the data that you're expecting to see because there's gaps in it. You can see those bid ask price changes, and there should be a new depth record, and that's just for bid, and offer. I don't know why they would have gaps in them, um, especially in an instrument like ES. I really don't. I don't know if that's related to this recording mode that I really have never used or even heard about. But this morning, I don't think you were on yet, but we were looking at uh, looking through bid and ask data that comes through on like get time and sales, which is basically giving you whatever the live bid and ask is on time and sales, including the size and the price. And then a second option using that intraday file record to be able to reconstruct tick data, and these also have the bed bid and best ask sizes and prices in them. So those two methods are how I always use to reconstruct it. I have never tried to reconstruct it using a data recording mode like this. But I also never look for data integrity, see if it's missing. Like if there's an execution, especially in the ES, there is likely a bid and an ask somewhere around that execution. I don't think the ES is an instrument that there will just never be a best bid or best ask or best offer somewhere on the market depth. It's the same without data recording mode too. What is the bar period here on this chart? What bar period is this chart using? It's a one tick. It's a one tick. One tick bar period. Why would we be missing data on a one tick bar period? That doesn't make sense. I agree. That does not make sense. Why you would be missing NBBO on a one tick. Have you implemented it? Okay, let me ask you this. Have you implemented any of these other methods, such as looking at it live with get time and sales or any of the other ones? Have you implemented it to see if you're also missing on those records? Or going through the intraday file and reading through? Am I coding? No, you haven't because of the coding knowledge. Okay. Let me connect with you offline. I don't I don't think it makes sense to dig into this on this call, just because it's such a niche thing. Let me connect with you offline on this, Andy. Let's see. Did we have? And the same with the data recording mode too. I haven't because my coding knowledge. Here's the code for reference. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's make this a little bit larger. I'm gonna get rid of these white spaces. So let's just read through this code together as a group. We have some subgraphs and some inputs, and it's just for the bid and the ask size. The study description is right there. Apparently this was deprecated, just an FYI for you guys. Sierra, I believe, deprecated this a couple months ago, so this doesn't do anything anymore. You have these two market depth flags set, so Sierra won't like recycle those arrays when you need them. And you are keeping whatever the prior index was, and you're storing it in that persistent int. You're getting the depth levels. So this is giving you all the levels of depth. This corresponds to, we covered this earlier in the session. Right here. This gives you, like, if the ES only has 4 bids at 4 different prices, this would return 4. That's what that function does. Okay, this right here would not make sense. This isn't, to me, this is illogical. The reason is this is telling you the number of market depth levels you have on the ladder, essentially. Whereas this is the size of the number of bars in the chart. So by making that comparison, what you're saying is something like, if I have a chart and this is index 0 and this is index 100, otherwise array size -1, you're saying, hey, price ladder, how many market depth levels do I have, and is it greater than the number of bars on the chart that I have? Like they're not even apples and oranges. It's like apples and monkeys. That's Sierra's code. Oh geez, well, maybe I got it wrong. Let me go look. Where... Maximum number of available market depths for the symbol in the chart. This will be the maximum for the bid and ask side, whichever is greater. No, I'm right. If they have this in their code, then that's a mistake. That's a bug on their end in the code. This is doing what I'm saying in the drawing. So let's keep going here. So clearly an issue there. This will give you the correct number right here. Bid array levels. Then you iterate through them. You get the market depth for them. You get the so bid size is what you're trying to get for each. So are you trying to just find the entire depth of the bid in like the aggregate quantity? Are you trying to get the aggregate quantity of all of the bids and put that in a subgraph, and the aggregate quantity of all of the offers and put it in a subgraph? Are you trying to get the entire sum of the bids and the entire sum of the offers into subgraphs? Is that what you're doing? Because that's what that code is trying to do. You have it set to 1 tick. That won't affect, because what this is saying, this function right here is saying, give me every single market depth level on the bid that I have available for this data feed. So if it's the ES, that could be 100, that could be 500, whatever your data feed supports, depending on where your data feed comes from and what your other settings are. So this could be like, let's pretend it's 500. And then what you're doing is you're going and it looks like you're just replacing. It's not even adding. You're not even aggregating. It's just replacing with whatever the latest one is. So let's connect offline. I think we need to define whatever the actual target goal is a little clearer, because I think it's a little muddy right now, like what you're trying to accomplish and what. So let's connect offline on that. Did we have any other questions here? Ahmed, hello. Ahmed has a question. Let me grab this and put it in here. So Ahmed's question is, I need to work with strings and URL requests, and I need to make an order, like what is the Sierra chart function to add a string to another string? Also, I tried to make this web request, but Sierra doesn't allow it. Okay, so two different questions. The first question is how do I append a string to a string? And the second question is, why isn't the web request working? So the first one, we haven't talked all that much about strings. ACSIL, where's my SC string? So strings in C++, actually I should go back. C++ is okay. C++ is essentially just C in a wrapper. That's all C++ is. It's just a bunch of C abstracted into higher level so that you can do things more efficiently. So in C, you didn't have strings. You had only characters, and what you could do, a character can only store 1 byte of information, so in other words, 1 letter. So I showed an example earlier. You can have, like if you have a character, my character, you can set it to H, and that piece of memory, my car, will point to another piece of memory. If you look at the memory breakdown of the machine, if these are memory addresses in your machine, being a bit verbose here, but you can know that that's spot 3, that's spot 4. So this piece of, and we'll say that these are 8 bytes width of memory. What you can do is, or what this is saying is that this character is stored in some piece of memory here, and then in here is the letter H. Well, what do you do if you need to put a string into your code? If you need to have a series of characters, well, then you need to have an array of character objects in C, meaning that they are in contiguous memory. So you could have something like this: car pointer, my string, and what that could point to is the first letter of your string. It'd be a pointer to that memory address, and then in each place you could have a different character. So it's an array of character elements that make a string when you put them together. So this would be how, the word how. So thankfully in C++ they took pity on us and built this thing called a string, a data type called a string. And what it is under the hood is an array of characters, but we don't have to do it that way. We can say string my string is equal to hello world. We can define it explicitly like that, and then under the hood, because C++ is just abstracted C, it does this and does all the memory management for you. Now, Sierra took it a step further, and Sierra built a thing called scstring, which is an abstraction of C++ strings. And by abstracting it, Sierra added a couple of functions that make it easier to do things. If you want to just use regular C strings, you can. I use a combination of both depending on what I need to do. But that's because I'm not a C++ programmer for most of my career. It's something I've worked with, but I'm not like a guru at C++ by any means. So I just use whatever one is easier for me to use at the time. I kind of mix and match depending on what my use case is. But this scstring object is what Sierra exposes to us, and here's the documentation on it. You know, nice short little read here for you, nighttime reading. Working with strings. Why did this not load? Where is this? Okay, here are all the methods for the strings if you use scstring. Clear, which basically takes whatever is in that function and clears it out. Format, append. Ooh, append. And your question is how do I append a string to another string? So if you have scstring my string1 and it is set to hello, and then you have scstring my string2 and it's set to world, let's take a look at the documentation together. If I tell the first one to append format a second one, it will return back to me an scstring of the two of them appended. Interesting. So what I could do is say scstring my string3 is equal to my string1 dot append format, and then what you could do is put string 2 in a formatted string like this and put a space there because you want a space between hello and world. And then you'd say my string 2 dot get characters. And now this says hello, this says world, and this is hello world. Does that make sense, Ahmed? Now, in regular C strings, you might be able to use just an operator, and I think actually there's operators on these as well, on these SC strings as well. Let me see where. There's also an append. If you don't need to format anything, you could just use append. So if you wanted to use append to do the same exact thing, you could just say append, and then say my string 2. And that would do the exact same thing. They would both, well, actually, no, it wouldn't, because you wouldn't be able to put the space in. So this would be my string 1, and then my string 2, if you did it that way, would be like that, because you're literally appending that to the end, to the end of that right there. So this would look like this. By putting the space in here, you get this, okay? And then, so there are operators here. You see these operators? So you can do stuff like, you see this equals equals operator? If you have two SC strings, you could do something like, if my string 3 is equal to my string 1 dot append my string 2, you can use the equal equal operator if you have two strings. You can compare them. One place that this is really handy for, by the way, that equal equal is sc.symbol equal equal some other symbol. I use that in the code frequently. There's another one. So here's another operator, plus equals, appends the contents of the right-hand side to the SC string on the left-hand side. So you could do something like this. You could do my str1 plus equals my str2. And what would you get? You'd get this. Ahmed is saying, if I make a string which consists of a lot of parameters like the URL I mentioned above. Okay, so you want to make a string that has a bunch of different stuff in it? Yeah, so this would be basically an SC string. Let's call it URL. Okay, and we'll say URL.format, and then let me move this up just a bit. And then what you do is, depending on which one of these are variables, like let's say, for example, I'm assuming some of these are variables, like for example, maybe this apple is a variable, and maybe like buy and limit are variables, and maybe number of shares is a variable. If I make a string which consider, let me copy that image you have there. Okay, so this is a variable for you. This is a variable for you, and these are all stored in variables that you are appending. So what you would do there is you would say sc string, my URL, and then you'd say URL.format, and then you'd say the first part would be your web address, so http://, www, etc. Or you have localhost 8080. And then slash, and I'm just going to put ASDF just to put this, equals, okay, I'll type it out. It's going to be long, but I'll type it out. Execute order, symbol equals, let me make the size of this slightly smaller so it'll fit on the screen. Right? So that you have here, but now you need to insert something from a variable. Well, this is a string already. This already is a string. So what we need to do is use the %s. I don't know if I don't think this is called an operator. This is it's almost like a symbol. I don't know what the actual programming terminology and lexicon is for this thing, this %s. But this argument, let's just call it an argument. You're going to say %s, and then don't you need an and sign? Yeah, you need an ampersand. So you need %s and limit price. Let me move this down here as well, just so I have it nearby. Symbol equals that, and limit price equals, and then you have what? What data type is this? Well, that's a float. That's a decimal. So float, right? That's a decimal. Why do I have an A in here? This is a decimal. This is a string. So coming back to here, so now you have a float. So instead of doing %s, you need %f. Okay. And then what's next? And order name equals, and then you have another string. So another %s, and so on and so forth. And then you end this URL.format with an apostrophe or a quote, not an apostrophe, but a double quotes, and then you put a comma, and then each one of your args that you want to replace, like there, there, and there, need to be provided to this function in the order that they appear in the string. So this one appears first, this one appears second, and this one appears third. 2, 3, which means the first one is what? It's the symbol, it's the string of the symbol. So maybe like sc.symbol.get characters. And then I put a comma, and now I need to put the second one. The second one was the limit price. So maybe that's like sc.close of, of whatever index you're on. And then the third one's the other string. Let's say we have order name as a string already, .get cars. And then you close off the function itself, and that's it. So it looks something like that, Ahmed. Okay, these numbers are off now, just because I kept typing, but you know what I'm trying to get at. Okay, we are at noon. We've already been going for an hour and a half. I'll take one more question, and then we'll call it for Friday. Do we have one last question? You're welcome, Ahmed. What about the URL doesn't requested? So, oh, that's right. So, thank you for reminding me. So when you say you tried to make the web request, what do you mean by you tried to, like, how did you try to make the web request? Did you take this string and put it into like a web browser and hit enter? Or like what does I tried to make the web request mean specifically? Sierra doesn't request it. What do you mean? Like, how did you try to make it? You tried to make this call from Sierra, and then what function did you use from Sierra to make it? From a study. Okay. What was the study name? Or was it a custom study? My Google study. Oh, the Google CSV spreadsheet study. Gotcha. Let's look at the functions together. for functions, let's look at the, I think it's called like, no, it's HTTP. Make HTTP request. Not the binary, not the post. This one, make HTTP request. So this is the request you're probably using, I believe. This is the one I don't remember what I used in that study. That was like 2 years ago, but make HTTP request and you pass it a URL, which, by the way, we just built right here, that exact URL. So did you use code like this to put it together? Can you share that code so we can look through it together? Because what this code is essentially doing, and all I did was I used this and kind of edited it to my needs for the CSV study. But up here, they just make a couple of enumerator types, or variables, I should say, just representing different states of the request. And then it only goes into this code block if that request state is not sent, which at the very first iteration, I believe it is not sent. And so it will come in here on the very first iteration, and it will try to make this HTTP request to that URL that you provided. So this is the actual call being made. If it doesn't work, it's going to set the request state to not sent, but if it works, it'll set that state to sent. Again, these are just integers keeping track of the state of what the request is. And if it was sent and the response is not empty, which is what this is saying, so it requested it, we know that it requested it because we set that right here when it actually did the request right here. So it requested it, and SCHTTP response is not empty, then we know that we received it. So we're setting, again, this enum of values, we're setting this to received, and we're spitting out what that response is. So do you have, what are you getting? Like what when you say it's not working, what's not working? What's breaking? What's happening? What are you seeing? What are you not seeing? Also, your URL is pointing to a local server running on port 8080, like a local web server, it looks like. So I'm assuming you have a local web server set up listening on 8080 on your own machine, because that's what you're hitting. You're not hitting outside the internet. You're hitting inside on your own machine. If the URL is requested, I'll see it in the order activity window. So you have some other functionality happening. So here's the problem. You have, this is whatever is listening to localhost 8080. Okay. And this is your Sierra. And you're making this request and you're saying, I'm not seeing what's happening. Like, I think there's some kind of functionality that is, doing some kind of computation here and then sending this data back up to Sierra. And you're saying this, what you're saying is this part right here didn't work because I'm not seeing this part reflected back into Sierra, which I think is not, you're skipping logical steps in troubleshooting by doing that, because you don't actually know if the lack of presence of this coming back into Sierra order activities window is indicating that this request failed. What you really need to do is say, hey, do I have any proof that this actually succeeded? Delete the third arrow. Okay, I can delete the third arrow. If what you need to do is did you write this listener on your local 8080? Did you write this web service that's listening locally? It's a platform API. Okay. Um, okay, so you don't even have a way to know inside that platform, whatever it is. This is, let's just say, some platform API for some execution platform, probably. You don't really have a way to confirm if your platform received this. So all you have is the Sierra call that you're making. I mean, you're making HTTP request, and then what was the HTTP response, right? This right here. This is the most important part of your entire troubleshooting right here. Is did you get an HTTP response? What are you seeing in your message log on Sierra that you got as an HTTP response? Because this HTTP response is going to be showing what you receive back from 8080's listener. Because Sierra is going to make a request with that payload to this endpoint. It's going to make this request. This is going to hit here. If there is a listener here, it will send back, because of the TCP protocol, the TCP IP protocol will send back a message saying, hey, I got your message. And then this will get it back, and Sierra will have something in the response. TCP IP is not a lossy protocol. It is a guaranteed delivery, but not guaranteed time protocol. So you are guaranteed to get some kind of delivery if that endpoint is running. So you really need to focus your troubleshooting on this. If the order requested, well, I'll see the limit order in the activity window. Again, you're talking about stuff that's happening down the line here. You'll see it. You're saying if this request was sent, then I'll see the order pop up here. Not necessarily. That's skipping logic. You won't necessarily see that. If you make this request, it could be that you had a spelling error and the platform API rejected it and sent it back. That means that the request is successfully being made, but you won't see that show up in an order window. So you see what I mean? You can't assume that because you didn't see this, that this part failed, because that's not necessarily true. There could be also another issue somewhere inside here where this part succeeded and you did send the request, something in here failed, like maybe it was like you don't have the buying power, or maybe you're trying to short but there's no locates, or maybe a million other situations that could happen inside of here. And I've seen a lot of them as I've been building out custom trading systems for folks. Just because you sent the order and it's intact doesn't mean that the platform, the third-party platform, is going to execute it and do exactly what you expect. So you can't do that logical leap. Well, you can do whatever you want, but you can't reasonably make that logical leap and say, because I don't see the order showing up in the order window, that must mean that Sierra did not send the request correctly. You could easily have sent the request correctly, successfully, and the order did not show up here. So you need to troubleshoot it step by step. And step one is, did Sierra actually send the request? And the only way to confirm that is to examine this. So that's your next step. What is your HTTP response coming back from your platform API listener on 8080 local? What are you getting back in here? Is it dumping out to the log like this code has? Do you have this code to dump out? If the response is empty, or if you have some kind of failure, are you logging that? Are you able to see those responses? That's where you need to confirm. If all of this is working correctly and you're getting a successful response back with no errors and everything, and it says the platform API is responding back saying, hey, everything's great, you just took this entire piece out of the problem troubleshooting, because you know this worked. Now, if that all worked, your problem is now here, not even Sierra related. It'd be over on this side. Does that make sense? So go find your HTTP response coming back and really look into what you're sending and what you're receiving back. and see if you can cut this problem of troubleshooting in half. And if you're getting everything back as expected, this gets removed from the troubleshooting equation, and you have to focus over here. If you're seeing failures come back, then it doesn't mean that this was working correctly yet. You haven't verified and confirmed that yet, but you know that you have a problem here if you're seeing errors come back into there. So that's the next step, is cut your troubleshooting problem in half. And this is actually just good troubleshooting when you guys are troubleshooting code. There's a lot of ways to debug code. I like the cutting the problem in half approach, where I just try to find a point of failure halfway through. If I have a system and I don't know where or why it's failing, I try to find somewhere where the halfway point is and try to confirm that one of the two halves is working. Because if one of the halves is working and the other isn't, you just cut your entire problem by half. You no longer need to, like, if everything works before here, and doesn't work after here, I don't have to do any troubleshooting on this side. If everything works before here but not after here, I don't have to do any troubleshooting on that side, right? Or I just said the same thing but backwards. You know what I'm trying to say. So cutting your problem in half and just continue cutting it in half. So if you determine that this is the issue on this side, well, then you come in here and you start cutting the problem in half in here. What is the URL? What is the exact URL I'm trying to hit? What is the exact HTTP response I'm getting back? What is this? Copy image. What? This is the, what is this? Ahmed? Response, true. Content 1, no errors. Apple. That's the URL I requested. Okay. So it sounds like this is the URL you requested that you put into the browser yourself, and in the browser you're getting this response back. But on the Sierra side, you're not seeing what you get. So because of that, it seems like first indication would be that there's an issue on this part of on this side of it. So now you need to, again, I keep repeating this, check this HTTP response. You should have, if the URL is identical and you set everything up correctly, you should have this text right here be inside this variable. You should be getting that back. What was the other thing I wanted to say on this? Are you dumping this out on the Sierra side, this response value? Because if you're not, that's the first thing you need to do. So go from that angle. I didn't look at the response yet. First to make the request. Got it. Okay. So you know what the next step is. This is definitely the next step for you right here. Analyze what you're getting back. Analyze, spit out the exact URL you're sending. Spit out exactly what you're getting back, and examine it. I bet you'll find whatever the thing is in there. Okay. Cool. Okay, we've been going for an hour and 45 minutes here. I think that's pretty good for a Friday coding session. I wanted to make I don't even know. All the stuff that happened with Fat Cat leaving and all that, not related to coding at all, but just this this Discord server. Just wanted to show appreciation for you guys and hope that you will help me in trying to keep this thing going until he comes back. If he comes back, I'm hoping he will. Um, but yeah, I don't have a stump speech or anything like that. I just saddened like all of you, was not expecting it, and kind of just fell into place unexpectedly, and just trying to make the best of it that we can. But he will be missed, and I'm talking about him like he's dead, but he's not. So I just talked to him on the phone the other day. So um, yeah, hopefully he'll be back sooner than later after getting a little bit of a break. But yeah, appreciate all you guys and have a good weekend. See you next week.